we are waiting to hear some pearls from you actually. You've
Okay.
been through these two sessions, and I know you always have so much to share, and I love listening to your, those amazing pearls that you come out with. I know that, without your videos today, because you're stuck because of the agitation in Delhi, that you can't reach home to present your videos from your laptop. But I would love to hear from you if you have any other pearls to share,
Yeah.
or making perfect incisions using the right instrumentation.
Okay. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Dr. Pahuja, and thank you to My Healthscape. And in fact, I was thinking I won't be able to make it, and I think it's my wife who gave this idea to me because I called up Gaurav and I called up Icha to say I don't think I'll be able to make it because I spent a good deal of time last 4 days making the presentation. But my wife just looked at me and smiled. She says, "Kamal, do you need a laptop to speak?" I said, "Yeah, you're right. I don't." So I think I'll start by speaking that whenever I have junior associates, when I do a training with them, and I just use one sentence that FACO is like a game of chess, where the first few moves will decide the winner from a loser. And you can't have the best move without having a good incision. So your good incision is the first move in the game of chess. Now, when I make an incision, a lot of people tell me, how can you be so fast? So I said, the speed is there in the mind. Before you start on the table, the mind starts programming. So a good wound depends on how you sit, where you place your hands, how do you rest your hands. There should be no tremor in your hands. So for that, what I always tell people is I make them de-learn. So when you're making a wound, most of us who are doing a temporal incision, we're doing a temporal bang on incision at 180 degrees. And in my opinion, that's a bad position to go from, because the moment you do that, just see my hand, I have frozen, when I do this, I've frozen my thenar and hypothenar muscles. And I will not have good maneuvers. I will be stretching the wound. I will having cornea striae, and I might stretch the wound to have a straight. So this is the position I operate. This is your writing position. So my both hands are like this. So when I talk about making a good incision, I start by making a good hand posture. Second, when I'm sitting on the temporal side, I make sure both my shoulders are exactly perpendicular from the line going from the medial canthus to my chest, so that I'm absolutely perpendicular to the wound. So then I have the best possible exposure of the lid and the lower lid and the lower fornix. So this gives me a lot of playing space if I need to place my incisions. Having said that, so I say a good incision, first of all, needs a tight globe. You cannot have a good incision if you don't have a tight globe. So it's a good idea to have a side port and instill slight amount of viscoelastic before you start making a main wound, because a tight globe will give me a better controlled incision. So that's a trick I teach everybody. Do not overinflate, especially if you're doing a topical surgery, but it's a good idea to leave a little bit of 0.2, 0.3 cc of viscoelastic in the eye before you make the main wound. Now the positioning of the wound, and then the orientation of your sitting, the ergonomics. If you are not comfortable sitting, your hands are not comfortable, you will, even if you make a good wound, you make it leak because you'll make it stretch. You will make unnecessary movements inside the wound. You will have Descemet's detachment. You will have wound stretch. So let me tell the audience, a 3 millimeter wound made by a blade induces 60% less astigmatism than a 2.6 millimeter blade stretched by your phaco tip or your instruments. So that is the effect of a stretch on a wound. So a bad wound, if it is stretched, becomes a worse wound. So we should have a wound which is in an ergonomic place, which is not stretched even when we are doing surgery. Now coming to the wounds, I think all wounds in phaco can be categorized by the site, the size, and the shape. Sites, as we all know, temporal, superior, superior temporal, inferior temporal. The size we have 1.4. We've Gaurav knows we've done 1000 micron wounds, 1.4 millimeter, 1.8 millimeter, 2.2, 2.6. Now different wounds depending on what are you comfortable with and what are you going to use. Now the wound size always has to be calibrated by the tip you're using. But let's not forget, more than the tip, it is also the sleeve. You must use the right sleeve for the right tip. Using a wrong sleeve with the right tip will be as disastrous like using a bad tip with the right sleeve. The reason being, I'll give you an example. I'm not carrying my presentation here. A 0.1 millimeter change in the sleeve diameter, which means the material of the sleeve becomes thicker, cuts your inflow by 37% at 100 centimeter height. So that is how a sleeve plays. So when you're focusing on good incision, let's not forget a good sleeve also. Now, you could have a wound which is good. So a good wound is, how do you define a good wound? First of all, it has to be a non-leaky wound. Absolutely sure, no doubt about it. But it should also be ergonomic. It should be comfortable for the surgeon to use. You will notice I'm talking a lot about ergonomics. For me to be fast the way I am, I need comfort. I need comfort in my position, in my hand movements, in my instrument movements. Then it has to be astigmatic neutral, as least amount of astigmatism as I can cause. Number 3, cosmetic. Next day when you see this patient, you should smile at yourself. When you see the patient on slit lamp, it should not be a white scarred wound with jagged edges, a little irregular descents, a proper rectangular box incision. So a cosmetically nice looking wound is always good. You could have a good wound, but it should, if it looks bad and it's scarred, I had some fantastic photographs to show the audience how even a good wound looks so nasty on a slit lamp. So if this patient goes to another doctor, the doctor just frowns. And a lot of times may ask, "Bhai, ye surgery kahan se karai thi?" So a good wound is also your signature. So I would say a good wound done by a surgeon is your signature. This is your signature, which is carried to other practices. Now, in my organization, that if there is somebody else following up the case, I want them to think that this was a good, clean surgery. It is not a bad, scarred surgery. Now, the collateral damage, as Dr. Gaurav said, a bad blade or a bad instrument will do collateral damage. Either it'll go suddenly, the way Gaurav said, it'll take off your desmids. A lot of times you need to hold, as Dr. Pahuja said, you need to hold the tissue to make the blade go in. The end result is you'll have a tear at the limbus, you'll have a conjunctival tear, or you'll have a big hematoma in the conjunctiva. Yeah. So the next day patient walks in with the eye colored strawberry. Now you've done a best surgery. So I keep telling my associates, a good surgery doesn't mean a 6'6" patient. Good surgery means when the patient gets up from the table, says, "Doc Saab, when can I get the second surgery done?" And the next day, when he comes, you need to ask the patient which eye was operated before you see him on the second. These are 2 dictums I tell my students. Next day, you should ask the patient, "Ma'am, kaun si aapki surgery ki thi?" And the patient says, "Yes, Doctor Saab, aap theek keh rahe ho. Mujhe bhi nahi dekhne ko pata lag raha." So good surgery means cosmetically nice surgery. So if you have a bad blade and you're pushing it and you're tearing the blood vessels, you're holding the conjunctiva, a comfortable post-op recovery is also a hallmark of a good incision. If the incision is done well, you do not need to hydrate it. Since the time I've started using money blades, I do not hydrate my wounds. So the end result is that the foreign body sensation in a topical surgery after half an hour when the patch is taken off is not there. Vision recovery is fast, especially in patients who have Fuchs dystrophy or they have post-RK patients where you don't want to hydrate these patients or the corneal wounds. It's a magic. These blades are magic, so I don't hydrate these wounds. So the end result is that the bumpy feeling on blinking, patient doesn't have that. If you've not hydrated the wound, after even 1 hour, 2 or 3 years of surgery, the patient doesn't have that irritation in the eye because of the bump which you created by hydration or tearing the conjunctiva or holding the conjunctiva and creating a bump there. Now, if your incision is tight, what can it do? A tight incision with a hard cataract will burn your wound. A tight incision in a hard cataract will give you more prone to have a corneal striae because these hard pieces will keep coming and hitting the endothelium because your fluid inflow is restricted by the sleeve which is constricted over the tip. So once the sleeve is constricted over the tip, you have lesser inflow. A lesser inflow in a hard cataract, a lot of times by spontaneous reaction, all of us would try to bring the cataract slightly up at the iris plane if you're operating a hard cataract. So that's the time you can damage. Another thing would be, you do create a lot of striae in the cornea when you're moving in a hard, tight incision. You have these stretch marks in the cornea which keep going in. And next day, they are there to tell a story to you on the slit lamp. Now, Descemet's detachment is another complication of a bad blade and a tight wound. Because a lot of times when you're going with the fluid on and you enter, sometimes your tip edge can take the descements off. Sometimes the sleeve edge can take the descements off. So having a tight wound is bad. So you need a good calibrated wound. Now, one thing is we all talk about the sharpness of the blade. We do not talk about the architecture of the blade. The architecture of the blade is as important as the sharpness of the blade. The thickness of the sheet is as important. Now, I did a study when I was doing a lot of 1.8 millimeter phaco surgeries with Bausch & Lomb machine, and they used to give me their laser sharp blades from USA. So I was also using some Indian blades, which on the caliper, digital caliper, were 1.8, but the incisions they were making were 2 millimeter. And then I realized it is the thicker sheet which the Indian blade was making. So the thicker sheet, as it enters the wound, it stretches the wound. So when it stretches the wound, it brings the two sides of the cutting edge wound more nearer to the blade. And as you exit and the wound collapses, you have a larger wound than you wanted. So a thin sheet blade gives you the most precise marked incision that you want. A thick sheet blade will give you a larger incision, and a larger incision will give you a leaky wound. Now, as I say, now one of my tricks is when I do a hard cataract, I have a slight leaky wound. A lot of times, Dr. Suhas Haldipurkar has asked me in life surgeries, when I get a hard cataract in the life surgery, he sees me make a slight, as I'm coming out, a slight little bump on my wound. So he's a lot of times asked me, and he tells me, yes, it works. Because what I want is I want a slight leak on the sides in my hard cataracts, because I'm going to be going full blow phaco in them. A lot of times using a continuous phaco. So if there's some fluid coming from the sides, this accounts for nearly 37% of the cooling on the tip. Because once you engage the phaco tip with the cataract piece, there is no fluid going inside the lumen of the tip. The tip is getting heated. And since there is no fluid going in, there is no fluid also coming from along the sides from the tip. So the only cooling you're getting is from the leaking from the sides. And believe me, all of us, we must try this. You will never have a fish mouth wound burn. Slight leak on the sides. It is a calibrated leak. It is a planned leak. I wanted to show you some videos with black-brown cataracts and the wound being pristine clear. No wound burn, no fish mouthing. So this is one of the tricks which I use. Now, the architecture of the wound is very, very important. If you have a side port, what I do is I make angulated side ports. Now I'm talking about tricks and tips, especially when I'm doing my IPCLs, and suppose I want to do a bimanual irrigation, though I'm a coaxial irrigation guy, but a lot of times I need to resort to a bimanual, small pupils, sticky cortical matter, subincisional cortex. So I make angulated side ports. So what that does for me is, since they are angulated, so their cord length is larger, they do not leak. And I do not make them tubular. So because if you have a straight wound in your side port and you use a bimanual and you twist and turn the bimanual to go like this and this, you're stretching this wound. So most of the times we realize we need to hydrate our side ports if you've done a bimanual. So what I've started doing is I use the bimanual at 60 to 70 degrees side port entering from a line drawn at the limbus. So this actually goes like this in the eye. And this is max movement I can do with it. And these wounds do not need to be hydrated. Neither do they get stretched. Again, a trick here is if I'm going to be using a bimanual IA, again, I have a little larger wound than my bimanual. Otherwise, a IA bimanual will tend to make a tubular hole. It tends to remain open for a long time, and this can be leaky. Now, the good characteristics of a good blade, as I think beautifully Gaurav has mentioned, are, of course, it should be sharp. It should have a surface which does not reflect back. It should have an interior surface which does not pull the descendants along with it, even if the blade is dry. Some bad quality blades, if the upper surface is rough and it's dry, it tends to drag the descendants along with that. I had some fantastic videos which I wanted to actually show there. Now, another good part about a blade is that it should be so sharp that you do not need to use any instrument, as I think both of my senior speakers have said. You don't need to use a second instrument to push the blade in. And you just touch the blade. And a lot of times with these money blades are so amazing that you can keep the blade there and you can ask the patient to look in your direction and the wound. Dr. Pahuja is laughing at me.
True.
I have made a video like that.
It happens. It happens.
I made a video like that. I just told the patient, and the blade was so sharp, it practically went completely. So I was trying to show it to my some juniors, and I said, the blade is so sharp. See, I just kept the blade like this. I told the patient, I said, Maji, meri taraf dekhiye, and boom, the blade went. So it's a very sharp blade. You need to be very careful, especially if you're used to blades like the same experience Dr. Gaurav had. Now, some of the innovations which I do is, suppose I had a vacuum loss and I was about to correct an astigmatism with my femto machine. And the machine, since the last thing it does is creates those arcuates to release the vacuum. So at least on less than half a dozen of times this has happened, I've used this money blade to create dual incisions on the steeper axis. And believe me, it's so calibrated. It corrects my astigmatism from 0.8 to 1 diopters, which is so amazing. And the best part is there is no mark. I make dual incision on the steeper axis. I correct up to 0.8. I believe there's a coupling effect which is helping here. And the next day you try and look for the incision, you can't see that. It's so beautiful. And I said, you know, for my side ports, I make slightly little bigger wounds. And in case you do need to hydrate a wound. And the best part about these blades is I'm told they're made from plates, wires. Most of the other blades are made from sheets. These are made from wires. These thin wires are beaten so hard and they make very thin strips of them. And then the way they are tempered at the heat cool methodology, which makes them super sharp. But the only disadvantage is, Gaurav will agree with me, they get blunt. Of course, we've used thousands of these money blades now. And I guess if you don't even keep it properly, it's gone.
Yes, yes.
Just keep it on the side, it's gone.
I agree.
So I use a single blade for all my femto cases, 1 blade per case. But in case I have other patients, I just use 1 blade, 2 to 3 cases. And believe me, the blade still has enough life in it for another couple of more cases. But you know, maximum I do is 2 cases. But yes, for all my femto cases, I use a single blade. And I agree with Dr. Gaurav. I have stopped doing femto incision openings since last 3 years. And since the time I got money blades in my armory, I'm just using money blades. They're super accurate. They're super precise. They're so comfortable. And I would say they are better than the diamond blades. So I think I would close my talk after that. And I'm so sorry I'm stuck up. I had some very, very interesting videos to show, a lot of still images of telltale surgery, first day post-op, 5th day post-op, how the scar develops, how the descent gets torn and causes this, how you get a chevron incision. And a lot of times you have a bad blade, you have to go like a snake trying to get into ground, you know, you're going like this in the incision and it never gets in. And then it suddenly goes in and what do you realize? You don't have a straight incision, you have an angulated incision. Like incision is just suffered from paralysis, hemiplegia, and the wound is in one direction. So having a good blade, I think, takes care, and you don't need to depend on huge, big machines to get chamber stability. All you need is a good blade, and you can compensate for a machine worth 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Thank you.
Excellent, Kamal. I think you really spoke so well. And in spite of, as I told you, you know, you don't need slides and you don't need videos. You can actually convey the message even better without your videos. Of course, we would have loved to see your videos. And the point very well taken, Kamal, about the, you know, hard cataracts and where the sleeve. So it's not just that your wound should be calibrated to not be leaky, but it should also be calibrated not to be tight. Because, you know, if you have a tight wound, your infusion will not go in nicely. You will keep getting chamber collapse, you'll get wound burns, and your surgery will get complicated because you will keep getting surge because there's not enough fluid. Now, this can also happen if your sleeve is old. So if you have an old sleeve, you know, it will not have that enough, you know, kind of,
compliance.
Yes, compliance will not be good. And it will collapse and it will not allow good infusion to happen. And it may even get twisted sometimes. So, you know, you may suddenly realize that you're getting chamber collapse because your sleeve is twisted. So all you have to do is move it backwards and forwards a couple of times in the wound and it'll ease up. And you can, you know, allow the fluid to, it'll allow the fluid to flow in. And as Kamal, you said that, you know, the sleeve, importance of the sleeve, you know, I've been using the Centurion for almost 7 years now. And a few months back, you know, I suddenly realized that my surgery, all cases, I'm struggling with my sleeve. So, you know, I asked my staff to check that why we are having a problem, and the sleeve, the color is the same, everything is the same. We didn't change the sleeves, and they checked and they told me, sir, we are absolutely using the same sleeves. So I contacted Alcon and asked them that, you know, I'm having this huge problem. Their engineer came, they checked out everything, went back saying that, sir, there is nothing wrong. But I said that I'm going to stop using the Centurion if you don't solve this, because I'm having issues with my sleeve, you know, entering the incision, chamber is not stable. You know, what they found was that they had by mistake started shipping a slightly different variant of the sleeve from what I was using. The color was the same, but somehow the compliance was different. And they said, so normally with the sleep never comes, and for some reason, you are being shipped these sleeves which are actually from the Infinity, but the labeling is the same, but they usually go with the Infinity. So I had such a huge problem. So, I think matching your instruments to your incisions and, perfecting that, interplay of your instruments and your incisions is so, so important, as Dr. Kamal just mentioned. And of course, all the other pearls, Kamal, which you spoke about, are so meaningful, and which Kishore sir said are so meaningful. And I think we don't have too many questions, and we've actually gone beyond.
I'll just add, last week, I keep having these lectures for all my doctors and my OT technicians, just as a continuing education. 3 times a month, I have lectures. So the last lecture, coincidentally, was an insight from the tip of my sleeve. And I just talked to my OT technicians and my doctors. I showed them videos about how the flow rate changes if I just change the sleeve. How the wound becomes, the same wound becomes bad for a bad sleeve. How the sleeve can crinkle when you try and hold a piece and suddenly the AC starts collapsing. And all that stuff, what you mentioned, is so, so pertinent. And I am sure I'll probably be uploading this lecture on YouTube, because I think most of us are talking about fluidics, machine dynamics, phaco cutting power, Ozil and everything. Nobody's talking about incisions, tips and sleeves. So I think My Healthscape is doing a great job talking about incisions. And I think somebody from us can also start talking about these tips and sleeves. And I think I will be starting this very soon now.